Good evening, everyone. This is Nisha here from Dubai. And a very warm welcome to all the audience and our esteemed member today here, who is our guest today here, Dr. Diwakar Pokhriyal, to another session of Authors Corner. And a very warm welcome, Dr. Pokhriyal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So before we take this conversation forward, I'd just like to give you a short brief, though the brief is very detailed and we won't have enough just in these few words, but we'd still like to proceed. Dr. Diwakar Pokhriyal, working as a business development head in a solar engineering energy company, he has completed his PhD, post-graduation and BTech in power energy. He has authored 20 books that include poetry, short stories and a novel, and has contributed to over 150 anthologies. And he has obviously, he has won multiple awards, including Nazme Sahitya 2021, India Book of Records 2021, Limca Book of Records, Author of the Year 2019, India Star Icon Award 2019, and Voice of India Literature, and has his own YouTube channel, Creative Energy, a very, very innovative, I think blended poetry and your work profile and made it into a creative energy. That is his YouTube channel. And he believes there's a poet in everyone, and that is also the title of one of his books, which we will be discussing today. And he has received an award, India Book of Records 2021, for this book. There's another book that we will be discussing, Sapne Sach or Udan, his first in Hindi novel. A very, very warm welcome to you again, Dr. Diwakar.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say to our audience who's just joining in?
Sure. First of all, I would like to thank the ALS group. I think I'll be looking up the group. They are different people with different creative flavors that they are doing, not just writers, but also there are other groups. So I'm just into the group. And first of all, thank you to all the viewers, those who are here and who are taking their time and just are with us, encouraging us. Shivpriya Srivastava ma'am is there. A warm welcome. Thank you so much. Same to you, ma'am. So I hope we should go ahead and just continue.
Thank you, sir, so much. And like you said, there's a poet in everybody, and I also believe in the same. And I have written a quote here, which I often quote on many shows, which say, "When the sentiments of the heart manifest in verses, a poet is born." So I think all of us think in poetry, and there's a poet hidden somewhere within us. I think we're just apprehensive in sharing our thoughts. So with this, we will go ahead. Tell me, Dr. Pokhriyal, you have authored 20 books, and the line you come from is totally different. It's like, how did you get inclined towards poetry?
Actually, if you see my resume, then you will be thinking that I am towards energy. But
Yes.
I have started writing since I was in 10th class. So, but because in my family there were no one who was in this creative field. So
Mhm.
because so that is why I had no idea at that point of time that what are the multiple options that I can have in the
Mhm.
writing field. So my interest was in mathematics also. I was interested in science and mathematics also. So as every middle class family that happens, I joined engineering and then I continued after that. But in my free times, I used to write. In my 10th class, I wrote my first poem that was in the free period basically. Because in the free periods, there was a teacher, our English teacher basically. She
Mhm.
came to the class and she told the class that those students who want to sit quietly, they can do that. And others, if they are interested, they can just do exercise and they can write a poem. So she gave us 8 or 9 words and she told us that if you want to try, you can try. So from
Very
there it all
nice.
started. So from there only it all started that I written my first poem, the school test. The title was the school test. So from
Oh,
there
how
it all
nice.
started. Because I don't
So
want
you
to give test.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So it is a naughty kid, in you, from where that poet has, emerged. So that's a very
Actually,
wonderful.
actually, in my school I was not that much talkative.
Mhm.
So whatever was there, that was inside me only.
And do you
So that
remember
all,
any of those lines from that poetry by any chance?
not as of
No,
now.
we all.
It was
I
long
think
ago.
yes. Yes, we all scribble as kids, but I was
Yeah.
asked on one of the shows to remember my first poetry. I have the diary. I have kept it very nicely, but you don't remember. I mean, we have grown from there, so many years behind us. Yes,
Yes, even
absolutely.
even even I had a diary where I used to write these poems during my time. But after my graduation, I lost that diary actually.
Oh my God, what a treasure it would have been.
Yes, exactly.
So, do you have any poetry? Okay, before we listen to your poetry, I would like to know about your first book that we are going to discuss today. There's a poet in everyone. What makes you believe that?
Actually, I believe when you talk to people, there are people with emotions, right? And we all have
Yes.
emotions. And poetry is just a platform how you express them. So if we talk about poetry, initially we used to see it as a very different field, but if you have an interest towards any art, whether it is music, whether it is anything else, so that is again a part of poetry only, because you'll say the rhyming poetry or you'll say a free verse poetry. So that poetry is inside us. Even in our school time, and we were kid in the first class and class, our mother used to tell us poetries and all those. So that is inside us. So
Yes.
every one of us have interest in it somewhere, but we didn't get that much of atmosphere, that kind of
Yes.
atmosphere, or people that are with us, those who write or do those things. So that is why we don't able to convert it into a book or a poem or 10 or 12 poems like that.
Yes.
And another thing that comes into the road is that initially we don't know about how many types of poetry forms are there. We believe that there is either a rhyming poetry or a free verse poetry, and that is why we don't try other forms, and our creativity doesn't grow.
True.
Actually, when I started writing initially for 3, 4, 5 years, I wrote only free verse as well as the rhyming poetry. But when I
True.
started going to different uh, groups and different events, there I realized that most of the poets are only conversing with the rhyming or free verse.
True.
Then I started researching about the poetry forms. That is there any other form or only they are rhyming, and then I realized that there are actually so many forms that we don't know. From there, I actually an idea came to my mind that if I want to know poetry forms, there might be other people who wanted to know more poetry forms. And if they can go to internet, that is good. If they cannot go to internet, then they have to find a book. So
Absolutely.
from there, this idea of there is a poet in everyone came in, where I have not just written 55 forms of poetry, but in the first chapter, there is a chapter where you can read and learn how to write those 55 forms.
Oh my God, that is amazing. Because
Yes,
we also, as because we are also learning the nuances of poetry, and on various platforms, it is provided to us. See, frankly, we've studied how you said rhyming poetry, basic poetry. Though we were
right,
from
right.
ISC, ICSE background, but we read Wordsworth, we read very simple kind of poetry. We never went into the depth of the how to write poetry. So I think this is something like I think you, because of your interest also, you
Yes,
took this
exactly.
interest further. That is
Actually,
wonderful.
actually, I believe that most of us have interest, but we don't get the way that from where we have to find those forms or to whom we should talk. That is why by the time it dies down.
True, true. I think we just get scared, or we become apprehensive about sharing. I think we become very conscious of what the people will say when we try something new. So probably this
Exactly.
book probably can help people like us who are still learning the nuances of poetry. What are the chapters all about? I mean, just in a brief, if you can tell me what are the different chapters, so maybe we
Sure, sure.
don't discuss the details. Yeah.
Yes, yes, no issues. In that book, actually, in that book, there is around 55 to 56 chapters. Actually, the first chapter is a conversation between two friends, and I have written in that manner because when we read, it should be journal, right? It should not look like that you are reading a book or English literature kind of book. It should be journal. So I have written in a way that two friends are talking. One friend is a poet who write poems, and
Wow.
the second friend he does not know, but he has interest. So he comes to his friend and says that poetry is very difficult. I cannot write. How you are writing, I don't know. So
True.
conversation start, and he slowly and steadily tells him that no, you have to start with only 2 lines, then you go to 3 lines, then to 4 lines. So
Correct.
in that way, you then again started naming the forms. I mean, if you go in 2 lines, then you go to 3 lines, then you go to 4 lines. So there is a different forms of poetry. Then again comes the syllable counts, that how the syllable counts comes and all those things, which generally people don't discuss. So that is why I put that also in the chapter. So in the first chapter,
Wonderful.
you will get to understand 55 forms of poetry and how to write that poetry. And then after that, all the chapters are the poems only. Means you will get each
Okay.
poem.
But it's very interesting because we first thing we do is to Google anything that we need to
Right.
find. So basically, your book would be a complete what do you call it, dictionary of how to write poetry. Everything that you need to know would be there in the book.
Actually, I was surprised when I actually applied for Limca Book of Records.
Haha.
Previous to this book, I have written a book named Poetry for Everyone. So
Hmm.
in that book, there was 25 forms of poetry. So I have written two volumes, where first in 25 forms, next in 25 another forms. So I then applied that to Limca Book of Records, that if somebody has done it or not, just to check. And I was
Yeah.
surprised that no one has even written that book, including 50 forms of poetry. It is very surprising that in internet you can get
Yeah.
different forms, but a single person is not writing those much form. That means we are not taking that much of interest, or there is something else.
So you I mean took the one step forward, and I think it is going to help a lot of people who are interested in poetry. Do you have that book here by chance? And if you can show the audience your book.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. I have this book, is Poetry for Everyone. So this book basically, this is the latest book. So in this you can find different forms of poetry, means different forms of poetry. So those who are interested in writing poetry or learning poetry, they can definitely go for this book, and I hope that they will find it interesting, and it will help them. And I actually want that not just this book, I actually want that in future, if there are different poets, so I want to write a book that have all the forms that is available.
Wow,
So
that is nice. It will be a good
that is
idea. Yeah,
exactly,
for each poetry you write couple of poetry, so it's like an example also.
exactly
Great,
for
very very nice.
for a poet, you, until and unless you don't get to know how many forms are there, how will a poet will go to the next level. Means I always wanted that in every generation you have to take the next step. Means if someone has written 11 forms, you should add the 12th form if you are interested in that field. But that will only come when you will read 11 forms and understand
True.
it.
True, true, true. Absolutely, Dr. Diwakar. It is very interesting, and the audience is really, really enjoying this. They are like it's a very different topic we have taken up today, and we are discussing. And I would like to thank Anita, Sheila, Niti, and their comments,
So
continuous
thank
comments
you.
for you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Really, it's a very interesting session. Now, on this note, I would just also like to know. Can you give us an example out of those 55 forms of poetry? Could you just name a few? Like, let me see if it rings a bell, because maybe I have written about them, but
Yeah,
maybe I
sure.
didn't know the name. Yeah. So, for the
Actually, I will start in that same manner that I have written in the chapter, so that
yeah,
everyone can relate it. For example, if you write 2 lines, that is called a couplet. It is a rhyming
right.
couplet, right? So
Perfect.
that we all know.
Yes.
So then when you make it to the 3 lines, in Hindi we call it Triveni.
Right.
If we read Hindi poetry, so then 3 lines are Triveni, right? Then we go to 4 lines. Then in 4 lines there is a form called ABC poetry.
Yes.
In there, what you will do, you will take every alphabet of the, means every alphabet from A to Z. You can take A, B, C, D, and you can write poem using that alphabet.
Mhm.
So then there is another form using this same alphabet, where you can use from A to Z all the alphabets, and
Yes.
each line start with the first alphabet. Means you
First,
start the poem by
correct.
A, then
A,
by
B,
B,
C.
then by C, then to come to
Correct.
Z. So this is
Very
one form.
interesting.
Then there is form in which you include mathematics. Means there are
Oh
syllable
my
counts.
God.
because when we talk about poetry, we all know William Shakespeare and we all talk about the poetries and sonnets and all those things, but we don't go into the depth that they have a syllable count. So in that game again, it comes that syllable counts come with in one line you have four syllable counts or three or seven or five. So based on that, the count differs. For example, when we talk about haiku, we have read haiku, lot of haikus. So
Yes,
there, where we say 575 is the your syllable count. I mean, the first line is a five syllable,
correct.
second one is a seven syllable, then
Seven
a
and then
five.
five. Right.
So then again, if we'll do 57577, it comes to tanka. That's another form of poetry.
Yes.
So there are so many different forms that we can do. Means there is a series. I'll tell you an interesting poetry form that there is a Fibonacci series in mathematics. So in that, what happens? You will start with one, then in the next one you take one, then in the next one you add the two, make it two, then you add one plus two, make it three. So these will become the syllable count of your
Oh
poetry
my
line,
God.
and this
Very
is called the
interesting.
and this is called the Fibonacci poetry.
This is so interesting, Dr. Diwakar. I don't think one session is enough to get so much information from you, and it's really. I think the people in the audience or anybody who is venturing into writing poetry must, use your book as reference. And tell me something. When you were, deciding to write about this, how did you do your research? Because everything is available on Google,
Yeah,
frankly. Yeah, but how did you compile and do your research and put it all together?
actually, as I told you, initially for the first 5 years, I was writing rhyming and free verse only.
Yeah, all
So
of us do
after
that.
yes, so after that, when I got interested, what are the different forms? How can I find that? So when I started researching in the internet and in Wikipedia and all those things, so where I got to know about all these forms means haiku. Actually, I joined a before that I joined a Facebook group also, where there are poets from outside India, from Canada or US, where they will write haikus and other forms.
Right.
So while discussing with them, I understood regarding these haikus and tanka and all those forms. And then I started researching on those different forms. So it took me around 1.5, 2 years to research on all these different forms, which I found it interesting. There are still other forms that I have not worked on. So these are only the forms that I have worked on because I find it interesting or there is something that is connected.
So
So
we see
after that,
another book coming. We see another book coming soon.
might be.
No, no, you should. I mean, because this is something, I think many people would like to refer to. I just feel that it needs a lot of promotion. It needs to reach out to a lot of people. Now,
Right.
on that note, there is something I have prepared here, and I would
Sure.
want you to listen to it. And what is
Sure.
poetry? All of us think anything I write is poetry. So there is a video here for short video, and I would want
Sure.
your feedback on that.
Sure.
How to write a poetry. Away from the hustle bustle of the cacophonous world, I seek a tranquil retreat to find some solace in, allowing my vagabond thoughts to then drift and look for the provenance of my unfulfilled treasures. I then slowly open a blank page in my treasured diary that captures an array of my unavowed emotions, and this dispassionate world is incognizant of. There is perturbations amidst this cacophony. Then within myself I delve deeper, trying to touch every isolated corner of my being, to unveil the indiscernible feelings I have kept successfully under wraps for time unknown, trying to protect my vulnerable side. Then the most intimate sentiments I pour, uninhibited, on that little piece of paper, and then circumspectly put it away till the moment I want to traverse the path yet again and experience the journey of myriad of emotions, weaving stories so rhythmic and mellifluous of love and heartaches, of desires and ecstasy, of hurt and heartbreaks, of pain and compassion, of devotion and passion, of memories and nostalgia. My poetry is a concoction of all these.
Beautiful.
So I would want your feedback on this, because for me generally I follow the, what you said, rhyme scheme, but in this I just had a free verse plus a few rhyme schemes also. But for me this is poetry. I mean, something that comes from your heart, something that your emotions all poured on paper.
For me, it is very difficult to say what is poetry,
Yes,
because actually there is interest, then there is something that you want to express, there is emotions, there are a lot of things that comes into poetry. So it is very difficult to express in one line. That if you ask me that how can I explain in one line, it is very difficult for me to explain in one line. What is what
absolutely.
it is kind of a solid form of water, like ice. You cannot say it is a water, because once it melts, it flows. Once it
Very,
evaporates, it goes into gaseous form. So it is very difficult to to say that what is poetry. But I must
exactly.
but I must say that it is a really a great attempt and a really great way of expression of what is poetry from your side.
Thank you, thank you. It means a lot, because sometimes you don't know what you're writing, but it just it's a very natural process. When you're writing poetry, if you apply your brains and write, then it is not poetry for me. Something that comes from the heart. I think my heart. I think expresses better. Wonderful. So, can on that note, can we have a poetry from you, Dr. Diwakar?
Sure, sure, why not?
Yes, please.
But which form you want to have?
Anything which we've not heard of. It'll be interesting, because rhyming and
Okay.
everything, I think, is very
Yeah.
common. Yeah.
Okay, so then I will try a ABC poetry, or let me have a small acrostic poetry.
Yeah, that I think most people attempt but fail miserably. So your example will be good for that.
So it is a very short poem. First, I will read the poem, then I will tell you how it is acrostic.
Okay.
So the poetry is: why so confused? Hope is the key. Amidst the dark clouds, timeless happiness awaits. So this is a poem. In the first line, you can see why so confused means W. Second is
Right.
hope is the key, H.
H.
Amidst the dark clouds, A. And timeless happiness awaits, T. That is
Yes.
what means क्या हिंदी में बोलते हैं क्या.
Yeah.
That means
Right.
that means we are confused. So this is based on the confusion.
Wonderful. Very nice. Because acrostic, again, many people attempt, but they don't understand the nuances of acrostic. So this is a nice share. And now, anything that you would like to share about your first book, or we'll proceed to the second book, because time is running out. We don't want the session
Yes,
to
yes.
end.
No worries.
We don't want the session to end without hearing about your next book. That is
Sure, sure.
Sapne
We can
Sach
move.
or Udan.
Yeah. So that is basically a Hindi novel. Actually when I initially started writing poetry, at that point of time, I used to hear that poets are different, writers are different.
Right.
So at times you have those kind of thoughts. But when I published my book in 2011 when I was in doing MBA, and I started writing when I was in 10th class. So in the gap of 5 years, I was writing poetry as well as short stories. So I had interest in both, means writing short stories as well as writing poetry. So even I have written two short story collections also. So, but then again, when you watch a lot of movies and then read comics and all those things, then the story comes into your mind that you can write a story also.
A rough sketch, yeah. A rough sketch
Exactly.
definitely comes from there.
So from there, I actually started thinking that should I try to write a novel. So then actually I did that. Started thinking about how to write a novel, doing research that what are different things or different how you write a novel, what are the different things that are there. So from there, I started writing the novel, and it took me around 2.5, 3 months. I continuously, I was at that point of time continuously writing novels only. So this is how it all came, and then I talked to a publisher, which he said that he is interested in publishing the novel. So then how it came into the market, it came to the market.
So, anything that you would like to read from your novel, if you have it, can you show it to the audience? Do you have a copy
No,
of the same?
no novel. I don't have any copy of my novel. I
Okay.
have only the cover page.
You can show us
So
the cover page. Please go ahead. Let us
the
see.
but that is in the laptop only. So
Okay,
that
no
is very
problem.
difficult.
No issues. I just thought we are
But
getting greedy. I think we're getting greedy.
so, but that no, that is fine. That is fine. That is actually good for me also.
Yes.
So that novel is actually about. I will tell you that in Hindi it says "Sapne Sach aur Udan." So if you look at the title, it is into three parts. Means the
Yes.
sapne, then the search, and then the udan. So that means in
सपने
your
सच
life,
नहीं होते, सपने सच नहीं होते, या सच सपना नहीं होता. How did you get that title?
actually that is the step by step things. Means when we are small, when we are young, we have a lot of dreams that we want to do this, want to do that. Different things, whether in sports, whether in writing, whether in our life as a job. Then we comes to the truth. Truth means what we can do. Means
Yes.
if I want to be a sports person or if I want to be a cricketer, then there is a lot of other things that comes into it other than just playing the game. Means I have to be fit, I have to do a lot of other things. Can I do that? So that is where the truth comes. Even while writing, I might like writing poetry, but can I write 20 poems or 30 or 40 or 100 poems, depending on whether it is just an interest or it is a passion. That is the difference. And
Correct.
so there, that is where the such comes, where the truth comes. When you realize that yes, whether you can or you cannot,
Yes.
and from that point you decide whether you want to fly or you don't want to fly. So from there comes the run.
It's a very deep thought that you have put into these words. It sounds very simple, sapne sach or udan, but I think the way you explained it to us, I'm sure it is going to floor the audience completely. So nice to hear you, Dr. Diwakar. And
Thank you, Manthan.
whenever we get time, I would like to have another session with you, because
Sure, sure.
such deep thoughts we often don't get, because
No,
we just
I really want to say that in the group that we have, in this ALS group, we can also have, in sometimes we can have this competition, all those things that we are already happening, all these things. So we can do these competition in the form of different forms of poetries also, where
yes.
people can try.
Correct. Now, I think on various platforms this is available, but since we don't know the nuances, it becomes a little difficult for us. But
Exactly, exactly.
once you are, well read, once you have read about that various forms and you're aware about them, then it becomes easier. No, wonderful thoughts.
Yes.
And would you like to share another poetry? Any poetry if you'd like to share before we are getting close to winding up, but I don't want to do it, but we'll have to do it. So another poetry from you,
Okay, so then I will start a Hindi poem,
please, please.
and this is kind of inspirational poem that I want to speak. So the title of the poem is यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का. यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का, यह वक्त नहीं है झुकने का. तू थाम जरा फिर कदम बढ़ा, तू उठा धनुष पतंजा चढ़ा. बस बढ़ना सीखा है तूने, चाहे रावण हो समक्ष खड़ा. यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का, यह वक्त नहीं है झुकने का. अब सूर्य उदय होना ही है, अंधेरे को रोना ही है. तू भूल नहीं कोई बातें, जीवन उसने खोना ही है. यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का, यह वक्त नहीं है झुकने का. दृष्टि में अंगारे भर के, वापिस आ बस जीवन हर के. अब नया समय है आने को, हर शत्रु रहे तुझसे डर के. यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का, यह वक्त नहीं है झुकने का. इतिहास तुझे है अब लिखना, ज्योति सा है तुझको दिखना. जल हो जाए जब नाश कभी, यह वक्त है तुझको दिखना. इतिहास तुझे है अब लिखना, ज्योति सा है तुझको दिखना. जल हो जाए जब नाश सभी, इस वक्त ही है तुझको रुकना. यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का, यह वक्त नहीं है झुकने का. तू उठ बड़ा अब कदम सभी, आ चला है मित्र वक्त अभी. जो बीत गया तो बात गई, तू कर्जा जो है अभी सही. यह वक्त नहीं है रुकने का, यह वक्त नहीं है झुकने का.
ये ट्रूली ट्रूली इंस्पायरिंग. और आज के दौर में जब कोरोना इतना हावी है हमारे ऊपर, तो वी आर लिटरली गिविंग अप ऑन लाइफ, वी आर गिविंग अप ऑन अ लॉट ऑफ होप्स एंड डिजायर्स. सो आई
Yes,
थिंक ये आपकी पोम जब लोग सुनेंगे तो थोड़ा सा इंस्पायर होंगे कि ये वक्त
thank
नहीं है
you.
रुकने का. बहुत खूबसूरत पोम थी. एंड आई थिंक एवरीबडी इन द ऑडियंस ऑल्सो इज एंजॉइंग इट. Just before we wind up, anything that you would like to share with the audience, Dr. Diwakar?
Sure, ma'am. I just wanted to say that for all those who are interested in writing, जो भी लिख रहे हैं या लिखना चाहते हैं, see, I always believe that there are different steps of writing. Means why you want to write is the very important thing that you should know or you should understand. Because we all have different goals towards writing. There are
Correct.
people who write because they just love to write. They are not interested in whether people read it or they don't read it or whatever happens. They are more interested in writing, getting their expression
खुद के
out
लिए
there.
लिखते हैं, खुद के लिए लिखते
Right,
हैं.
right. So that is one part. That is very fine. Then there are people who want to write because they want to get famous. So now, if you want to do that, then you have to understand that how people get famous, means how they get that limelight, what are the things
It's a
that they do.
process. Yeah.
It is a process. It is not just because initially when I started writing, I also thought that you just have to write a good book and then everything will happen. But that does not happen because when you realize that there are other things that happens other than writing, so that is what you have to think about it. If you are really want it or really you are interested towards that, then again, if you want to write, continuously you want to write, you have to be in a group where there are people, like-minded people, where they are writing, they are interested in different forms, different things, because that gives you a boost. There are times in our life, there are times in days or in months where we don't want to write, but because we are in a group, we are in the midst of people, those who are interested, so we also started writing just because, and that is how our mood changes, and that is how when we keep continue writing, our writing improves, and then we take the next step. So that is ultimately what happens initially when if initially I tell you that can you write a book, you will say that no, I cannot write a book. I will ask,
Correct.
I will ask you why you cannot write a book. You will say that there are 100 poems in a book. But if you are writing one poem a day, in in 1 year you can write 365 poems, right?
Correct.
So it is not about thinking writing 100 poems. It's about writing just one poem.
You start small. There's always a first step. You cannot climb a ladder without taking the first step. And those are very, very enlightening words, very, very inspiring words, Dr. Diwakar. And the audience is completely, they were very engaged throughout the session. And we need to
Thank
thank
you
you
so much,
for this.
ma'am. Thank you
We
so
need
much.
to thank you. And we just hope, like, once we have first round of all our authors, we would like to have you back some point in time.
Sure, ma'am. No issues. And again, I would like to thank everyone who is here, especially Vishakha Sharma, ma'am is there, who is actually appreciating. I was reading the comments.
Yes.
So, and there are a lot of other people also, those who are
Yes.
enjoying this session. And I really must say thank you, everyone, because all these things not just, it encourages the writer also that
Correct.
he can engage with people, he can discuss with them, and he can understand that actually whatever he or she is writing, that is actually getting benefit not just to himself but to other people also.
Yes, people
Because
are able to relate to it. That is more important.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
So on that note, thank you very much, Dr. Diwakar, for joining us, and we would like to thank the audience for being there.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you so much, and we
Thank you
look
so much.
forward to having you back here on
Sure.
next Monday, same time. And look, we'll invite you again. We are not going to let go of you, Dr. Diwakar.
Sure,
Thank
ma'am. No
you,
issues.
thank you so much to the audience, and we'll be back here on Authors Corner
Thank you
next
so much.
Monday, 8 p.m. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you so much.